Welcome back to the other side of 45 podcast. I'm your host, Randy Black. This podcast is about taking chances, owning my mistakes, addressing generational and family cycles and traumas, completing my 50/50s by 50 list, and my life as a single mother of Gen Z. I used to say my life as a single empty nester, but my chickadee has returned home, and I'm okay with that. She graduated from college last year, and my baby graduated. My youngest graduated on May 1st, so I have two college graduates. Honey, I am two for two. I'm 2 for 2, honey. I am done it. I got both my girls as a single parent through high school and both through college in 4 years. Yes, very proud of that. I'm very proud of them because they are resilient young women, and they did not let the fact that they came from a single parent household stop them from uh, achieving their goals. Very proud of my girls. Kudos go out to them. So, if this is your first time listening, I want to welcome you. Please subscribe and rate this podcast 5 stars. Now, this episode is entitled "No, I'm Not Gay." So let's get this out of the way. At the beginning of this episode, so I have never been asked. I've only been asked once in all my 49 years if I'm gay. Since technically being put out the cult, I've done a lot of work on myself, deconstructing the indoctrination. And so, although I've talked about homosexuality before, and with this being Pride Month, June, I try to do at least one episode about pride or gay. So let me go back. It's June, so we're going to be talking about summer, Pride Month, Juneteenth, and Father's Day. That's what you're going to get this month. Okay. Anywho, and I'm also doing something special with my oldest. We're going to do 19 days of Juneteenth. Yes, we're going to throw Juneteenth at y'all. So stay tuned for those. Those will be shorter episodes and videos, and we're going to post those on YouTube. So go to the other side of 45 on YouTube so you can listen to or watch videos of what we're going to do 19 days of Juneteenth starting today. Today's June 1st. This episode should probably is going to not going to air until June 3rd, Monday, June 3rd, because I'm trying to get back on track. Anywho, back to the subject at hand. No, I'm not gay. So since being technically thrown out of the cult, like I said, I've done a lot of work on myself of deconstructing. I've got a lot of good news about that deconstruction coming in July. So I've done a lot of deconstructing, and part of that is how I view homosexuality, which of course I was taught was wrong. But after I relocated to Atlanta 23 years ago, because I relocated when my youngest was not even born and my oldest was 5 months old. So it was in the year 2000. So it's been almost 24 years ago that I moved to Atlanta, Metro Atlanta. And when I moved here, I got introduced to a lot of different types of people. It was like being just like seeing things new for the first time. It's like when I always equate seeing something new for the first time is when I first saw the first time my children saw the ocean, and they were little itty bitty little things, barely could walk in diapers, and the waves were coming up, and their eyes got really big, and they would run from the waves, but they also wanted to be near the water. And also when my ex and I went to the beach for the first time, he was very much so led a sheltered life, had not really been outside of South Carolina, and had never been to a beach. And I remember when he and I went to the beach for the first time together, because I had been to the beach before as a child, and he had not. And his eyes was wide open, and he was like, wow. And I found that funny. That's one of the more positive memories that I have of him, and they were not all bad. Like, I have two great children out of it. So I mean, he's an absolute fool, but they're not. He's just supposed to show you. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going there because it's also Father's Day this month. So we're going to be positive about men, even when they have no reason to be. And girl, get back on track. So, anywho, when I came to Atlanta, I sometimes liken my experiences here to the first time someone has seen the ocean. It's like your eyes are wide open. You're like, wow, I didn't realize this all existed. And so when I came to Atlanta and I started meeting all these different types of people with different backgrounds, I felt that way. I had never known any gay people that were openly gay. Um, and so that was new for me, and so that did change my view of homosexuality. Plus, I was, not when I first moved here, I wasn't deconstructing, but soon after I got here, I was deconstructing. 9 years after I started my deconstructing, really. So, anyway, you know, I was able to start to look at people differently, and by the time my children were in middle school, I had completely changed my views of homosexuality. And I remember when my youngest told me that one of her best friends at the time was gay. I remember she just said it, and I think I can't remember if she was bi or lesbian. It don't really matter. So we talked about it, and that was it. There were no issues. The conversation basically was, she's your friend. That's it. Nothing else mattered. And it wasn't like my daughter was like, oh my God, I can't believe she told me. It was done so matter of factly. It was like, oh, by the way, so-and-so is gay. And I was like, okay, well, she's your friend, so who cares? And so that was really I would say my introduction into it being more of my personal life. I had worked with gay people, but, that's work. They weren't my friends. They were my coworkers. But now this was somebody who was going to be in my life because she was my daughter's best friend at the time, middle school. They hung out all the freaking time. She's at her house. The girls at my house. So I knew, that changed it as far as my relationship with those in the LBGTQ plus community. And that was before they were called that. I think it was just down to LBGT. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. Anyway, that for me changed because now this is going to be someone that is in our circle, meaning me and my children when they were in middle school. And then as they got older and start moving through the public school system, they knew even more openly gay boys and girls. And none of that ever mattered to us. It was like, okay, what is the point about this person? And so my kids never made it an issue because I never made it an issue. And that's important because of the story that I'm going to tell you. So anyway, I was at work. Now understand this was last year because this was a episode that I recorded last year that for some reason I have tried to post this like a million times. It would not post. It kept saying it would, and then I would get an email saying there was a problem. So this is actually from last year, which is not that big of a deal, but this is a story I've been trying to tell for a year. So I was at work, and at my job I work with several openly gay people. They're absolutely openly gay, and trans people. Because of me working in HR, I know they're trans because their ID, especially here in Georgia, would reflect the gender that they are transitioning from. And the gender that they're presenting in front of you doesn't match the license. Honey, I don't freaking care. Be whoever you need to be to get through this world. Good for you. Anyway, so and plus a lot of them, and they're young, they're more open to talk about their transition. They're more open to tell you, yes, I'm a trans male, I'm a trans female. So I knew that I know trans people from work. And so that to me at this stage in my life, that it didn't really bother me. I was like, okay, I know a lot of people have problems with that. I am not one of those people. So that is very important to know. Because sometimes when you're looking at someone who is going through a transition from male to female or female to male, what we've been taught as a society. If a person looks a certain way, we say she or we say he, but that person is saying, I may not look exactly the way you are accustomed a she or he to look like, but please call me the other pronoun that you don't want to say. And so sometimes our eyes can make us think, okay, this is someone that I should be saying he to, but this person has told me they are a trans woman, so I need to say she. And then the opposite is true if you're talking to someone who is a trans male. Now there is one person who is a trans male who is very feminine presenting, and I understand the transition. Very young person, beautiful, sweet. Oh my God, these people are the sweetest people. I just love talking to them. Anyway, so it's hard for me. I do try to use the correct pronouns. I am better with he, him, she, her, even if the person in front of me does not match what I've been indoctrinated to believe that he, and she should look like. I am better with that than I am with they. It is so hard for me to say they, but I'm working on it. And most of the people that I've encountered are very grace. You know, they give you lots of grace and say, it's okay. You know, and like I would rather if they're transitioning to male just to call them him than they. And if they're transitioning to female, just call them she than they, because I have tried the they and it is hard. And some of them go by both. So if you're transitioning to male, you may say, I go by he, they. And if you're transitioning to female, you might say, I go by she, they. I can do the she, I can do the he, but the they is a struggle. But I'm going to get it right. Anywho, so one day I'm talking to this young woman. She's about late teens. We'll say late teens, 18, 19, whatever. It don't matter. Definitely not a minor, but I want to say she is 19. It matters not. They're all the same age. 18 is the same as 19. So we were talking about drag shows. And I was telling her that I took my oldest daughter to a drag show for her 21st birthday. And I was showing her the pictures on my phone. Y'all know when I talk about my kids, I'm bragging. I'm pulling out the phones. I'm showing pictures. Look at me, who's doing this. So, and we were having a lovely conversation about drag shows. And I was telling her about us going to this drag show. It was my first time, it was my oldest daughter's first time, and I wanted to take my youngest, but her schedule was so crazy, and I still haven't taken her to a drag show. Anyway, so I'm showing her the pictures. In the midst of that, I mentioned that the MC got really personal with me at the drag show because this was a smaller venue, and one of my coworkers at the time had invited me, and I told him that my daughter's birthday, and the coworker that invited me was a drag queen, but was not a trans woman. So let me try to explain this. So he went by he, except when he was in drag, which was easy because man, that makeup, holy cow! So when he was in drag, he would go by she, and she looked amazing when she was in drag. So she was the one who encouraged me to take my daughter to that particular place because he had invited me to watch him dance, and I said, "Oh, it's perfect!" And it was right around the time my daughter's birthday, so that was in 2021. Okay, but anywho, so I'm retelling that story to a coworker last year in 2023. Follow the timeline. So I'm telling her in this small venue, you have this MC. I got really personal with me and asked me what my sexual orientation was because we're in a drag show. So, okay, so it was me and my daughter. We were the very few women who were in the audience. Most of the people that were in the audience were men, and apparently all gay men. So when the MC asked me what my sexual orientation was, and I responded, I'm heterosexual. And she goes, oh, honey, you're not going to find anybody here. We're all queens here. And so all the men was like, yeah, we all gay. Honey, I wasn't checking for them people. It matters not. It was just all in good fun. So the young lady that I'm talking to last year in 2023 says, oh, you're straight? Now, I had never in my life had my sexuality questioned. So I was a little shocked, a little taken back, and I was like, yeah, I'm straight. Why would you think I'm gay? And those of you who consider yourself allies in the LBGTQ plus community, especially in June, and just allies if you are a white person who consider yourself an ally for minorities, I want you to listen to this very carefully. I want you to get real close. You don't have to. You get to turn it up. Anywho, I want you to listen carefully to what this person said to me. So I asked, why do you think I'm gay? And she said, I've never met a straight person who is so accepting of other people's lives. Now I'm listening. I'm like, what? Now she's a child. She's a child, so she don't know a whole lot of people. And she went on saying, I've only met gay people that don't judge other people. And now, I had not expected that. And then, the more I thought about it, I was like sad. But then I was like curious. I mean, is that true? Now, I'm not sure if the young lady that I was talking to is in the LBGTQ plus community or not. I didn't ask. It ain't none of my business. She didn't volunteer. Now, what I do know is that she left her religion while still living under her parents' roof, and that was very difficult for her. And so she and I had connected because I was telling her about my experience, and I was telling her about this podcast. And I know from time to time she does listen to my podcast. And I can always tell, just so y'all know, that if you listen to my podcast, because it'll come up in conversation, you don't have to say, I heard this on your podcast, because I know that there are certain things I only say on my podcast. And then when you slip that right in our conversation, honey, I know you've been listening, but I don't care. I'm okay with you commenting on it. It's out there for anybody to hear, honey. So anyway, I know that she has listened to my podcast before because she's made comments to me about some things that she's heard. This is a young person. Anywho, but I was very curious because I was like, is that true? Do straight people, are they not as accepting as they claim they are? So at the time when I first recorded this, my work bestie at this particular job is a gay married man. And so I went to him. He no longer works there. I still do. He left. So I told him about the conversation. And he said, I never thought you were gay. But I do agree with her. I agree with what she said. And I was like, really? And he went on to tell me, he's a little older than her. I mean, you got to understand with him, he is a openly gay man married to another man. So he's encountered all kinds of people, okay, living in the South. Anywho, and he didn't only just live in the South. So he's encountered more people than she has as a much younger person who's still living at home. He's outly living with a man who is his husband, and they've traveled. So he's encountered more people. So that's one of the reasons why I asked him and told him about it. And then when he said, he had never thought that I was gay, but now that I brought it to his attention about what she said, that straight people are not as accepting as me. And he said, I agree with her. And I was like, really? And so he says that he had encountered several straight people who appear to be accepting. But as soon as the person in the LBGTQ community walked away, they would make fun of that person or say something adverse. So, like I said, we work with trans people because the three of us all worked at this particular job. And we had several trans people there. So he recounted stories and he was like, and he would say names. I'm not going to mention names. It was like, we all talking together. And this trans person came into the conversation and they made it seem like, oh, we don't care. And then laughing and talking. And as soon as that person walked away, they start making negative comments about that person being trans. And he said, I've never seen you do that. He said, you always try to use the right pronouns. And I told you, I struggle with they. But when you're talking to trans people who do not always present themselves the way we typically think a male would look like, what we typically think a female would look like, and you could slip up and say he when that person has said I am a she, I try really hard not to do that. And so, he had seen me not make those mistakes because in my head I'm like, she, don't offend this person, because it is important to me that I don't offend people. Unless you're racist, I don't care. Let's go. So anywho, so he goes on and tells me this. He He was like, you have never said anything negative about their transition or how they live their lives. And then this is a person that I consider my work bestie. And so we've had conversations that were off color, but never have I said anything negative about somebody in the LBGTQ community. And it wasn't that I was trying not to because of him. We said some horrible things to each other, but we have that safe space that we can. But it was never, according to him, on those lines. But also because, honey, I don't care. So I just, it really made me think that him, who has traveled and met a lot of adult people who claim to be allies, and if you would do that in front of his face, because you know what I think, if you do it in front of my face, tell him what you're going to say when I walk away. So if you are a person who is a heterosexual and you consider yourself an ally, I want you to think about those times and ask yourselves, or even don't even have to go that far as to ask yourself, pay attention to how you respond or how you react and how you interact when you find out that someone is in the LGBTQ plus community. So you may be considering yourself an ally, but are you making off-color jokes? Are you saying negative things about their lifestyle? Because someone's listening. And the fact that I've met two people who said that I'm the only person in their circle that doesn't do that, to me, that's just freaking sad. And then, I'm always trying to go for self-reflecting. I ask myself, well, shoot, have I ever done that? And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know, honey. I'm 49. I can't remember every conversation I've ever had. I can't remember every interaction I've ever had. I don't know. It's possible. At one time, I was taught that homosexuality was wrong. I have also struggled with understanding trans people at one time. I am much better now than I used to be. So I can't say that I've never done it. Now, what I do know that if I ever do it from here onward and someone calls me out, oh gosh, I hope, and I'm going to try that if I get called out for saying something that I shouldn't say, that's insensitive, that I take that in and say, okay, I'm going to do some self-reflection. I want to make sure that I do not intentionally offend somebody just because they don't live their life the way I would. So I have said a couple of times that I have been given really great compliments throughout my life, and that now is on that list of compliments that I will always remember, because it says a lot about me and my deconstruction of Christianity. That where I am now is never ever would have thought I would have been here. I am a completely different person. And I hope people understand that I am not the same person I was when I lived in South Carolina. I'm not the same person that I was when I was in high school. So please don't treat me like I am. That's really more for my family. Y'all have no idea who I am now. And I really wish that you would give me an opportunity to reintroduce myself to you, because you don't really know me. You don't. Anyway, this is about pride. And since it's June, I'm recording this on June 1st, but you'll get this on June 3rd. Happy Pride. And if you're an ally, make sure that you open space to be a safe space for those who are in the LBGTQ plus community. Oh my God. Community, because there are so many laws that are being changed to make sure that they are othered, and create a space if you're an ally so they don't feel othered. And listening to that comment, it I always do this self-reflection. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing so great. So y'all know what time it is, honey, because it makes me love the theme song for my life, Just Fine by Sister Mary. Come on, Sister Mary. I like what I see when I'm looking at me, when I'm walking past the mirror. I don't know why I can't talk today. Don't stress through the night at a time in my life. Ain't worried about it if you feeling it. Got my head on straight. I got my vibe right. I ain't going to let you kill it. You see, I wouldn't change my life. My life's just fine. Now, I've already told you guys about my Juneteenth plans, June 1 to June 19. Now, we're going to be doing something on my platforms for Juneteenth. Hopefully, my daughter and I will be recording a podcast today. I've invited her to start a podcast. It's just me and her, maybe once a month, doing X versus Z. That those episodes did really well, and I really want to bring that back now that she's out of college. So meet me on the other side of 45 the podcast, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, not TikTok. I decided that I'm not gonna put my stuff on TikTok. I'm just not on it enough, honey. It just so there will be no TikTok. I am going to try to make sure that I release new episodes every Monday. There have been some things going on. And in July, you'll be getting episodes as going to beginning in July. You're going to get more episodes, weekly episodes as promised, and I'm going to cover what's been going on and why I have been MIA. But anywho, thank you for tuning in. Please rate the podcast 5 stars so others can find it. I'm going to try to ramp up my IG and YouTube more. But anywho, thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your support. You can, if you want to join me and talk about, you can contact me on my social media. Have a great day. See you in the next video.